Hello, it's me, and I've come back to you again to show this fascinating new / old puzzle. This is in the Dayan Gem series, and this is the Dayan Gem 10. And if you don't like Roman numerals, then you can say the Dayan Gem X, I guess, which sounds kind of cool too. So what is this puzzle? Is it worth getting? How does it fit within the mold of the other Dayan Gem puzzles? So taking a look at it first, we can see that it can move on this face over here. We also see these edge movements over here too. So this seems to rotate, getting it back into its shape at 180 degrees. And these have 90-degree turns and can scramble in a non-shape-shifting way like that. So you're probably thinking, okay, well, we've got edge turning capacity. Do we have jumbling capacity? Well, we can move this up, move this down across here. And yeah, so we can jumble it out of orbit. So we have the notion of orbits where anytime you have a 180-degree turner, it stays within those orbits unless you jumble it out of that. And it can also shapeshift as well. Okay, so that's just kind of a preliminary look at this. So what is this? How is it different from the others? Well, let's take it back a step. Let's go back a little bit and talk about what these Dayan Gem series are. So they're actually pretty brilliant classification of puzzles where they take platonic solids, various other types of puzzles, and they turn them into Archimedean solids or other kinds of solids that have a variation on the structure, even if the function is the same. And the overall question that I'm going to ask at the end of this, before diving into the scramble and solve, is what other Dayan Gem puzzles does this resemble structurally, and what does it resemble and become equivalent with functionally? What kind of a puzzle is it a derivative of that moves in the same way with maybe similar strategy? Well, the answer to the first question is probably going to hit you pretty fast, like right now. So we'll start off with the Dayan Gem 1. So here's the Dayan Gem 1 puzzle. So you can see a vastly different kind of a puzzle. No, I'm just kidding. So you can see that it has a very similar look. Actually, it looks the same. If you saw them sitting on a counter, you probably wouldn't see much of a difference. So what does this represent? Well, the Dayan Gem 1, like the Dayan Gem X, you can see that it has edge turning motion. Because this has edge turning capacity, it can likely jumble. Let's see if we can get that to happen. This is an older puzzle. Whoop. Oh, I think this has to come up like this, and I'll be done. Oh, there it is. Okay. So you can see it shapeshifts and jumbles much the same way, being an edge turner, just like this. But this does not turn at the surface over here. So what puzzle is this a derivative of? So the Dayan Gem 1 being a full edge turner, we might as well look at our other edge turning cubes. So this is a curvy copter, and you can see that the motion of these sides really has a pretty good correlation here. These two pieces correlate. These pedals here also correlate with this. These over here. It does not have corners though. So in that way, it is a combination between the helicopter cube in terms of the way it looks and the curvy copter, because you've got these centers, which the helicopter cube does not. Now the thing is, the shape of this puzzle is a truncated octahedron. So they take an octahedron and they basically just chop off the top, so you end up with 4 sides here, just like the 4 sides here. And then after you do that, you have an extra side here, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's why you get 6 sides over here. So this is actually a truncated octahedron. So although I can correlate it with the functionality of the curvy copter, just because we're so used to that puzzle, it's actually more correct to say that this is a variation of the octahedron, and specifically an edge turning octahedron, not a face turning octahedron. So something like this is probably more correct to correlate with this puzzle in terms of its function. So if these are the edges over here, so this would be the surface here where you truncate this down, and that's where you end up with what you need over here. So this edge here correlates with movement of this edge over here. The only thing about that is that there's so many more pieces here. This is more like a variation of a curvy copter 2 than an actual curvy copter. But it is more correct to call it that from a structural standpoint. The cube is the dual to the octahedron, so in that way you can say, well, we can still look at it more like the cube version, and fair enough, I wouldn't disagree. But in any case, that's what this puzzle represents. It's the truncated octahedral edge turner, or we can say that it functions a lot like the curvy copter. Okay, so that's Dayan Gem 1. I suppose we'll put this over here, and maybe the correlative puzzles are right over here. Okay, so what is Dayan Gem 2? So Dayan Gem 2 would be this guy over here. So what do we got going on with this? And this is its basic structure over here. So it's got these 6 sides, square sides here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then some sliced areas of where you think corners should be. So what it looks like is something of a truncated cube, but in actuality it's got a different sort of a shape. It's what's called a biscribed truncated octahedron. So once again, if you look at an octahedron, and this were the surface over here, if you chop this down, you'd end up with 4 sides over here, and this would represent, once again, 6 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So similar kind of thing, but this is also a truncated octahedron, but this is what's called a biscribed truncated octahedron. By biscribed, you could sort of see the similarities here, in that this is the surface, these would be where the faces would be. And then here's where your edge is. But what you would notice is that this side here is pulled down a little bit. So imagine this comes forward as this is, so this side is actually squished down, giving it this shape. So this is really the same thing here, it's just squished down a little bit more. So you can see that the sides aren't really the same length. This, they're equal, here they're not. So it's really a similar kind of a puzzle. So the Dayan Gem 1, which is this, a truncated octahedron. This is a biscribed truncated octahedron, where just this is pulled down, so we've got different sides over here. But I kind of correlated that with the edge-turning octahedron as well as the curvy copter. So let's see what this one looks like. So just like with this puzzle over here, you can see that the edge turns. So this is an edge turner. Just like this is an edge turner. But the main difference is that this doesn't turn on the surface, and this one does. So Dayan Gem 1 was a pretty straightforward edge turner, truncated octahedron. This is a face and edge turning truncated octahedron. Now if we were to look at this as though it were a cube, we could say, well, maybe we can look at this as like a truncated cube where these are the corners and these are the edges. So the corners are kind of chopped down here, leaving the edges over here. So I suppose you could look at it like a truncated cube in a way. So this would be the equivalent of if I had an octahedron that was not only a face turner, like this, but also a corner turner, like this, which I don't have yet. If anyone knows where I can find one, please let me know. But in any case, if I were to correlate this with a cube, the kind of a cube that's going to be a face turner and an edge turner is going to be something like, well, this. Terrible puzzle from the standpoint of being mass-produced, because these centers tend to drop into here. But basically it moves, turns like a 3x3, just like this is. Just like that. But it also is... Whoop, don't want to cause these centers to sink again, but it also is a edge turner as well. Yeah, an edge turner. So just like what happened with this guy, can we jumble it? Well, let's see. We can turn this here and this to here, and turning it around. Got to line it up just right. We're almost there, just about there. It actually does turn quite well. I just have to get myself used to lining it up. And yes, so you can jumble it. As you can see, you can turn it, and you can swap sides like we did with the other ones. We can do single jumble maneuvers, double jumble maneuvers, so you end up switching orbits. Now this also goes by an orbital pattern when it comes to the edge turning. a little bit catchy here. Haven't pulled this puzzle out in a while. But what it will come down to is that these are, with these edges, these are like the petals of the edges. So this will stay within this orbit as long as you don't jumble it. So when I turn it here, those orbits will be the same. What's interesting though is that it looks like it turns by 90 degrees, but it actually doesn't. If I turn it over here, I'm not going to be able to make any other turns. I can move this face turn here. Okay, so that's the Dayan Gem 2, which adds on. It takes the truncated octahedron, turns it into a biscribe truncated octahedron, and actually adds functionality to it by having the function of having face turns and edge turns, just like a hybrid. It is a hybrid puzzle, like a 3x3 edge turner. So that is the Dayan Gem 2. All right, we'll put this back in its correlative place. Now again, if I really had a puzzle that was correlative with this, then it would be an octahedron that's both face turner and corner turner. Okay, what about the Dayan Gem 3? Where do we go with that? Well, the Dayan Gem 3 would be this guy over here. So this has also the same look. This is also a truncated octahedron. So right now, all of our Dayan Gems are in the shape of truncated octahedrons, which are Archimedean solids. So it's really the same kind of thing over here, as you can see. The same shape here, the same shape over here. So how does this turn? Well, I can see that we're turning over here. Oh, we seem to have lost the sticker here. I wonder where that went. But anyway, so this turns here, and this turns over here as well. So what's different is that the edges are here, and you can see if this is correlative here with the 1, this edge turned, this one does not. This is correlative with the 2, actually like this. This edge turns, and this one does not. But these corners turn. They look like faces over here, but they're actually corners. So that would be like this turning, which it doesn't, and that would be like this turning, which it doesn't. Okay, so if the Dayan Gem 1 was like a truncated octahedron, more like a curvy copter, Dayan Gem 2 was more like a hybrid of a 3x3 turns, a face turning 3x3, as well as an edge turning 3x3. This is like a face turning 3x3. You can turn here, here, and here, but also a corner turning, otherwise known as dino cuts. So corner turning 3x3. Now because this does not have edge turning capability, it doesn't jumble. So this is going to be a lot like a puzzle like this, where you have face turns, just like a 3x3, but you also have corner turns, just like here. So in many ways you can look at those as kind of like a down, down, up, up sort of a thing. Down, down, up, up, and you can see things move from there, which is very much like these corners by going down, down, up, up, and seeing how these things change. So here's the edge separating here, and down, down, up, up. So we see a similar kind of a distribution of what happens with these. Down, down, up, up. And let's bring this back. Down, down, up, up. It's actually the master version of it because this turns as well. So this was the closest one that I had that can. You could look at a scube, but scube is more of a deep cut than that, and that's more of a cubic version of an octahedron anyway. So anyway, Dayan Gem will take the 3x3 face turning functionality and add a corner turning functionality as well. So that's the Dayan Gem 3. Place that over here. And it's correlative over there. Okay. So what about the Dayan Gem 4? Well, we can't seem to escape the truncated octahedron because it's this, which looks just like the Dayan Gem 3. But what functionalities does it have? Well, this would be the 3x3 face. That doesn't move. We've maintained corner turning, but we also have a deep turn like this. So this is where we take our truncated octahedral theme, let's leave the realm of the cube because we have this face turn. We've got a deep face turn, and then we have so we have 4 layers basically. So what the Dayan Gem 3 is almost beat for beat, structure for structure, the same thing as finally this guy. So this is the truncated version where you're going to chop off each of the corners and create these over here. This is correlative with this turn, this correlates with this turn, this correlates with this turn, which correlates with that turn, and the final one down here correlates with these over here. Okay, so basically this is simply a truncated octahedron, but this is purely a face-turning master truncated octahedron, and that's all that is. So that is the Dayan Gem 3. So these are all variations of 1 through 3 are variations of truncated octahedrons, where we can do correlative solves with various types of cubes that are face turners or edge turners. Place that here. Place that here. Okay, so that's 1 through 4 so far. What about Dayan Gem 5? Well, we bring out this handsome guy over here. Now we're straying from the well, we think we're straying from the shape, but we're really not. So what does this shape look like? What have we seen before? Well, we can see that we have a square shape over here, and we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 side over here, 6 side over here, but this is sort of blunted. If this was like the edge, this cube has come down to sort of shorten this side of the edge. So we saw that with this. It's a biscribed truncated octahedron. So it's really the same kind of puzzle as this. This is more rectangular than triangular, but you can see that these sides have the same shape, and here's the edge over here. All right, so so what is this correlative with in terms of the function? Well, if this was a face turner and an edge turner, then this over here is going to be well, it's going to be a corner turner. And is that it? No, what's interesting is that this turns. This also turns, so all of these guys turn, but we're seeing a small triangle and a large triangle. So this turns and this turns. So this is a very special kind of a puzzle. This may be the structure, but there isn't any octahedron that that looks like this. Well, this is actually the first mass-produced version of this cubic correlative, which is called the F-scube. F-scube is an interesting one because this is sort of a step up from the scube. So here you can see scube turns, and you can solve it just like a scube, but you also get these superficial turns over here. So just like with this correlates piece by piece with this move over here. Then you've got this central move over here, which correlates completely with this move, and then you've got the large triangle, which is this piece over here. So this particular biscribed truncated octahedron correlates completely with an F-scube. And an F-scube is sort of the next step up from a scube. And I do have a tutorial that gets into that. Now, some would say that these scubes are cubic versions of tetrahedrons, and they wouldn't be too far from that. So anyway, we're still in our octahedral form, our truncated octahedral form, but we have 3 truncated octahedrons and 2 biscribed truncated octahedrons, which is interesting. But the F-scube is the one that correlates with that. So let's put this over in a hallowed place over here, and that would be the Dayan Gem 5. Okay, what about 6? Well, 6 is when we start to get a little bit crazy. So this is Dayan Gem 6 right over here. Now, I always thought that this looked like a fascinating, complex kind of a puzzle, and it turns about this axis and a more superficial axis, and all the rest turn just the same. It's amazing that I haven't lost much of the stickers. I think there's one that's lost, but well, that's pretty good. But what you can see is, oh, there it is. There's a lost sticker. Just kind of tuck that back there. So you can see that there's like a hexahedral surfaces here, here, and here. These two, these two, and these two. So there's a cubic move like this, and it moves exactly as you would expect a hexahedron to move. But it also has a superficial layer over here. So the shape of this is actually still in the octahedral classification, but this is called a truncated tracheus octahedron. So what is that? Well, a tracheus octahedron is a dual of an Archimedean solid, which I believe is a truncated cube. But suffice it to say, it's from a Catalan solid, which is the dual of an Archimedean solid, and this is the truncated version of that. So we still have an octahedral component to it, but this really follows the form of this puzzle here. So if you look at it as maybe a 3x3 cross cube, so here's all of your 3x3 moves, which is correlative with this, and the pieces are exactly the same. So you can see even this crossover here, but this surface move is correlative with this, and those pieces are exactly the same too. So basically, this is your circle, your wheel of wisdom, or however it's called, puzzle, where they took the circle part and just combine it down here to get you this cube over here. So you can look at it as a cross cube, but geometrically speaking, it's that truncated tracheus octahedron, which is a truncated version of a Catalan dual of the truncated cube. And well, the dual of a cube is an octahedron, so it would stand to reason that the Catalan dual of a truncated cube would be the tracheus octahedron, and this is the truncated version of that. Okay, so this is Dayan Gem 6. So we'll place that over here. It's a little further over. Okay, good, good. Okay, what about 7? Okay, so here is 7. Now 7 might look very familiar. 7 may superficially look like one of these. Now you can see you've got the face over here, but if you look closely, this shape looks a little different, and you can see that although you're seeing these structures all around the puzzle, what you're also seeing is that this surface here is not here. This face here is not here, it's on this side over here. So what you're actually seeing, well, if I were to hold it here and this were the edge, you're going to find that this articulates with this face here, with this spot here, as opposed to here, which means this must be an edge. So it appears that this is an edge, this is an edge, this is an edge. So these are all edges and not corners. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just like this is not an edge turner, this is an edge turner over here. So this represents the turning of an edge. So in that, it more resembles this version. So this move is exactly the same as this move, which means does it have a kind of a jumble. So basically these are edges. So what you basically did is it's not really the same shape as a truncated octahedron. This is what's called a chamfered cube. Now the process of chamfering is if I were to take a cube and I took the edges and I sort of flattened the edges. So I kind of truncated the edges, and you can see that if I did that, I'd end up with, this would be now made up of 2 more sides of the face. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I were to slice that down and kind of create a surface, and then stretch that out where I shrink this and I do that on all sides, I'd end up with sort of this kind of skewed surface, which is that process of chamfering. It's not exactly, it's like a form of truncating. So that's what this is. This basically represents an edge. So all these are edges and these are surfaces. So what we find is that we can actually turn the surface. We can turn the face. So this is a face turning hexahedron, but also an edge turner on what amounts to a chamfered cube. Now imagine that if we were to straighten this out and we were to elongate this, these edges would shrink and shrink until they just become a line, and that line would be this edge. But as I expand it out, you'd end up with 6 sides. One here, 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 and here, and that's what this represents. So, so because of that, because these are edges, it can jumble, which means I can move this over to here and take this all the way down, and there's your shape-shifted jumble. I can also do a double or a single jumble exchange like this, go all the way across, and do exactly the same kind of a thing. So in that way, you'll find that this is very similar to the functionality of this guy. Well, actually, yeah. Nope, functionality of this guy. So this is a chamfered cube, and this is a truncated octahedron, but this moves on the face, this moves on the face, this moves on the edge, and this moves on the edge. We just have different geometries. One is a truncated octahedron, and the other as a chamfered cube, and not really an octahedron. And that chamfered cube will look a little bit like this. But you can see the similarities, which is why cubes and octahedrons are considered duals to each other. Okay, so that is, where am I at? 4, 5, 6. This would be 7. So in that way, this would resemble a puzzle like this. Now, we can also say it resembles this kind of a puzzle because here's our edge turning, here's our face turning, but it's a cube in its own right, and it has what looks like a little bit more complexity. And this is the same thing. So here's our surface turns. This is by Gregoire Fenning, his beautifully rendered 3x3 cube. I'm sorry, 3x3 edge turner, and then this can turn over here. So we've got edge turning and 3x3 turning over here as well. So it does everything that a copter will do, but it also has face turning. So that is the 7. And now we finish with the 8, and this guy is 8. Now this looks like it came down in complexity a little bit, but what do we have there? So this is actually a truncated tetrahedron. So this is like a pyramid, a truncated tetrahedron, and this moves like this. So you've got this surface that moves, you've got this middle piece that moves, and you've got this end piece that moves over here too. So notice every face turns. You can look at it like that too. Every face turns here. And because this is a truncated tetrahedron with 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, this is really the equivalent of this guy over here, the master pyraminx. Master pyraminx, you've got a small turn over here at the top, just like this, which correlates with it piece by piece. You've got a middle move over here, then you've got a larger, wider bottom move over here, and that correlates piece by piece as well. So this is really the truncated tetrahedral version, piece by piece, of a master pyraminx. So that's exactly what this is, and that's what number 8 is. So we've left the octahedrons, and we just went into the tetrahedrons, and that is number 8. Okay, so we can see the hallowed halls of the Dayan Gems. Now you might ask, well, what about 9? Where's 9? And the answer is, I don't know. Well, there's a 9, but right now it's not mass produced. Someday I hope it is, to sort of complete the collection, but we don't have that yet. But now we have 10. So my question, the first part is the easy one. Which structure does this resemble the most in the previous Dayan Gems? And in terms of movement, in terms of what you see, what other Dayan Gems share the same function? We know the same structure, but which shares the same function, and what would be the platonic or cubic equivalent to this, or not even cubic equivalent to this? And based on that, with these moves over here, that could help us with the solve. So let me know what you think, and I'll come back at you with the scramble and the solve. Thanks for watching.